Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. Today I will be playing through the game with another fossil Pokémon, but this time it's going to be from Generation 1. Omastar, and honestly most of the fossil Pokémons have always been very fascinating to me, but that might be because I am a big fan of dinosaurs. Anyway, for the rules, I can only use my starter in combat, I cannot use items from my bag in battle, I can't increase my evasion in any way, and I cannot use cheats or glitches. Omastar is a bit weird. Unfortunately, it does not yet have access to the move Shell Smash. That would be extremely good. Instead, we have to make do without any boosting move this time around. The starting moveset is also kinda weird. Withdraw makes sense, Bite maybe, but why Constrict? It has a couple of tentacles, but they don't look like they can constrict much, to be honest. At least since Bite is special in this game, I can make use of my decently high special attack to destroy the first few fights in the game. The only things that are a bit annoying are the Puchienas, since they are also dark type, they resist my attack and so they take a couple of extra hits. For the first fight against the gym leader Roxanne, I could have leveled a bit more and got to level 19 when Omastar learns Water Gun, but since that is quite far away, I decided to attempt her with Bite. Once again, the fact that Bite is considered special in this game is extremely useful for us. That allows me to hit her Pokémons on the special side where they are much weaker. It took a few turns, but eventually I can defeat Roxanne, and honestly I did not even lose that much health. Once that fight is done, we have to take on the sort of side quest where we have to rescue the Pico. The fight against the Team Aqua Grant was much easier this time thanks to a crit. And after we are done with that too, we can take on the optional fight against our rival May. Surprisingly, I actually lost in the first attempt. Trico is faster than me and does a lot of damage with his Absorb. The second time around, I learned from my mistakes and used Rock Tomb on her starter Pokémon so that it would be slower and I could outspeed it and defeat it before it could do even more damage to me. Fortunately, there won't be as many grass types from here to the rest of the game. Of course, I skipped Brawly since I do not have the type advantage, but instead he has it, and so I went straight to Slateport. Here, as usual, we have to take care of a few Team Aqua Grants who are trying to steal the engine parts. Their Pokémons are a bit annoying but nothing too dangerous, and I can destroy them with a couple of Rock Tombs whenever it decides to land. After listening to their boss, we have to grind for a little while because the next encounter is going to be against May again. And this time around she evolved her starter, so things could be bad. I adopted the same strategy that allowed me to win in our previous encounter, and it still worked, allowing me to defeat Grovyle before it could do too much damage to me. Now that May is defeated, we can get to Mobile, where after a bit more training we have to face the gym leader there. Wattson specializes in electric types, and so this gym should be quite hard for Omastar, especially because they are very fast. But thankfully along the way I learned Mud Shot, That move is not particularly strong, but since it is super effective on the whole of his team, it's going to be very useful to allow me to beat him. Especially against the usually very annoying Magneton, who this time around gets obliterated by a single attack. Now that we have obtained this badge too, we can use Rock Smash to explore the rest of the mainland, and eventually we stumble into the Meterfall Caves. Here we have a chit-chat with the two teams of the region, and then we have to climb the volcano to try to stop Maxi. Maxi's plan is to trigger the volcano to awaken Groudon, and of course we cannot let him do that. The match against his Pokémons is not particularly dangerous. They are not very great against water types, and so by spamming Water Gun and the occasional Rock Tomb, I can get through them without any issues. And now that we have stopped him, we can resume the badge collection. The next gym leader on our way is going to be Flannery and her fire types. Since today I have a Pokémon that quadruple resists fire, this match should not be particularly challenging. Unfortunately, I still only have Water Gun as my main water attack, but it's going to be enough to demolish her team. The only thing that survives a hit is a Torkoal, and to be honest, she survives a few more thanks to potions and sun. It even managed to attract me to try to delay the inevitable, but eventually that Pokémon too has to fall to the onslaught of attacks. Once we have obtained this badge too, it's time to start backtracking. The first stop on our journey is going to be Brawly, since I skipped him earlier, and because I came back at a much higher level than his Pokémons, they are not going to be particularly difficult to take down. A single water gun on each of them is enough to defeat them, allowing me to get this badge in an easy fashion. Since we have now obtained the first 4 badges, we have to backtrack a couple more steps and challenge our dad for the 5th badge. Norman is usually quite dangerous because his Pokémons are quite tanky and can deal a lot of damage with their normal stab attacks. Today, since I am part rock, they should not be able to deal that much damage to me, giving me a much safer chance to defeat him in the first attempt. To be honest, they also have dark moves, but since those are special, the damage is not particularly great. And for whatever reason, a +6 Linoon's headbutt also deals very little damage to me. Not sure what happened there. Well, the badge is still in our pockets, and with that the Surf HM2 that I immediately teach to Omastar. Finally, we have a good stab attack, and with that we can reach the other side of the region and sweep through Shelly's team as she is holding hostage some scientists. Soon after that encounter, we have the penultimate one against our rival. Now that I have both Surf and Ice Beam, there is very little that her team can do to stop me, and so in a few attacks I am able to defeat all of them. Even Absorb at this point is not doing that much damage because of the low base power, so I should be fine from here. Anyway, up next we have the 6th gym badge against Winona and her flying Pokémons. Once again, this fight should be quite easy for us since I have the type advantage. The only thing that might be dangerous is Skarmory and her steel attacks, but those are only neutral against me and she gets one-shotted by Surf anyway. Surprisingly, Pelipper leaves an attack and tries to confuse me and all of that, but I can get through and defeat it immediately. With the 6th gym defeated and the ability to use the surf, we can resume our journey, and in the next town over, we can face May for the last time. Surprisingly, in this fight, she is able to defeat me twice because her Grovyle outspeeds and one-shots me with a crit leaf blade. Ouch, that was painful. Boot for Omastar and my pride. Anyway, in the third attempt, Leaf Blade does not get the crit, so I can survive it and finish off the rest of her team from there. I sort of expected the low speed to be a problem, but I did not expect it to be one so soon. After finally defeating our rival, we can get to the Pokémon Tower, where we meet with the Team Aqua leader, and also the old lady there gives us a key item. With the magma emblem, we can enter the cave where Groudon is, and after sweeping through a bunch of grunts, we can get to their leader. He awakens the legendary, but since he used the wrong orb, it flees. The fight against Maxi is not particularly interesting. His Pokémons are still quite weak to water and ice, so between those two moves, I can sweep through his team mostly. Once we are done with him, we can go to the Team Aqua base to try to do the same to Archie, but here we are only able to find one of their admirals. Even though his team is also very weak and gets swept through, he still was able to buy enough time for his boss to flee in the stolen submarine. To try to catch up to him, we have to use the move dive, but to be able to do so, we have to get through the 7th badge. For the fight against them, my level was not particularly high, and so I thought this could get problematic. I just barely learned Ancient Power to have a decent physical option in case they spammed Calm Minds, but instead Solrock tried to use Solar Beam raw without the sun, and that gave me enough turns to take it down. With only the Lunaton left, it was only a matter of time before I defeated that Meteor Pokémon too. After acquiring the badge, we have to go help Steven in the double fight against the leadership of Team Magma. Much like our previous encounters against the Team Aqua members and admirals, this fight is not particularly hard. Their teams are very weak to Surf especially, and since in this one I am not alone against two Pokémons, the fight is very easy. They always try to make the fight RNG dependent with confusion and status moves, but this time around that did not matter very much. Me and Metang were able to attack through confusion most of the time, and thanks to that and our high damage output, we were able to defeat all of their Pokémons in a somewhat low number of turns. As a reward for this fight, Steven gives us the Dive HM, and we have to immediately teach it to Meryl and use it to reach the seafloor cave. Here we arrive before Archie and can fight him before he can use the orb. Once again, the fight against this kind of team is not anything to write home about. Even though he has a water Pokémon, they are still extremely susceptible to H2O attacks. Unfortunately, even though we managed to defeat the Team Aqua leader, the red orb in his pocket still activates and awakens the legendary. Now that both legendaries are awoken, their abilities are clashing with each other, turning the weather from sunny to rainy extremely often. To put an end to that disaster, we have to go ask Rayquaza for help. The third legendary of the trio is still able to put an end to their fighting and calm the other two legendaries down. Once the planet is saved, we can resume the badge collection and take on the last gym headed by Juan. His Pokémons are all water types, and that is not particularly great for me. Their stab attacks are going to be neutral against me, and so they can do decent damage. On the other hand, my attacks are not going to be very effective against them. Sure, Ancient Power is neutral, but my attack is not that high, and since the base power is also kinda low, the damage is lackluster. An Omniboost from it would have been very nice, but today Ancient Power is not feeling very generous, as you'll see later. Even with all of those problems, I am still able to get through Juan in the first attempt, and so I can finally enter the victory road. Here we are soon approached by the secondary rival of the game, Wally, and he tries to defeat us with his very heterogeneous team. At the start of the match, I was trying to get boosts with Ancient Power, but that did not work. And so once I got bored of that, I switched to either Surf or Ice Beam, depending on what I was facing. His team is not particularly powerful, but there are a couple of annoying things, like Roselia and his status moves, or Gardevoir and his massive special defense. Gardevoir in particular stalled me out a little bit with potions, but nothing too bad. After getting through the rest of the cave, I can enter the league, and here I was not super confident in my chances. My level is still somewhat low, and my move pool is not particularly great. Of course, I had to get Substitute, because that move is very powerful in these matches. Sidney is first, and the fight against him is a bit slow but not particularly dangerous. Some of his Pokémons are able to leave a hit, while others can dodge many attacks with a double team. Still, their damage output is not that great unless they set up, and so I can safely hide behind the Substitute and spam attacks until all of his Pokémons are defeated. My stats were good enough for this fight, and so I did not even try to get a boost with Ancient Power. The same thing cannot be said for Phoebe. Of course, I started the fight with the usual Substitute to block the course and save me from a guaranteed loss, but then I tried to use Ancient Power a few times to get a boost, since her Pokémons are somewhat tanky, especially the two Dusclops. That did not go very well, especially because one of their Bannets knows Thunderbolt. I forgot about that, and so my sub got destroyed very easily. I then took a pretty large earthquake from the other Dusclops, leaving me somewhat low on HP. I still had enough for a sub, but not knowing what moves I would face, I preferred to spam Surf, and fortunately I got through. The third member of the Elite Four is Glacia, and she was the first major wall of this run. Ancient Power is super effective on all of her Pokémons, but the damage was nowhere near good enough to one-shot any of them without the boost. As previously mentioned, I'm not sure why, but Ancient Power today was very stingy with the boosts. For this fight in particular, I got through over 25 PPs of Ancient Power without a single boost. Eventually, in the successful attempt, I was able to get a single boost at the very last possible turn, and with the increased attack, my damage was just barely good enough to KO in one attack her remaining Pokémons. And that had to be done because even a single resisted Ice Beam or anything like that could have been enough to spell my doom. Once we are finally through Glacia, we can take on Drake, and he should be quite a bit easier, I have Ice Beam, which is super effective against most of his team, but I still tried to look for an Omni boost at the start because I knew that both Flygon and Salamence would be faster than me, and since they have good attacks, that could be a problem. Unfortunately, I got no boosts, and it turns out that Altaria and Kingdra are also faster than me. Fortunately, those Pokémons waste their turns setting up, and so they do not end up mattering much in this fight. And even though in the last turn I take a pretty big Dragon Claw from Salamence, I think I could have lived even a crit, and so I am finally through this fight too. Last but not least, we have the champion, and of course, this guy had to be a pain too. I almost defeated him in the first attempt, but I got stalled by Milotic, and from there things did not go very well. I got defeated quite a few times, and eventually I decided to use a few rare candies to reach level 70. Even at that level, things were not going very well. Ultimately, in the successful attempt, I had to get a bit lucky and get an ancient power boost near the start of the fight, giving me enough speed to outspeed the rest of his Pokémons, enough attack to one-shot or two-shot most of them, and enough special defense to allow my substitute to take a couple of attacks. That last part might not have been needed because I think that Wallace AI tries to use status attacks if your Pokémon is above 50 or 60% HP. Because of that, his remaining Pokémons tried to use Toxic and that kind of moves, allowing me to defeat them quite easily. This run with Omastar was not that bad, even though the ending was a bit rough. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of that YouTube stuff. If you have any video ideas, comments, feedback, or anything like that, leave them down below. I'll be sure to read and answer all of them. See you next week. Bye!